When dietary fat is very low, it's very difficult to make yourself fat. Mark Smelly Bell here, and we're talking more about kind of a bodybuilding style diet. Sorry about the wind here in Bodega Bay, but it's always windy out here. A bodybuilding style diet. Protein is high, 1 gram per pound of body weight, or 1 gram per pound of lean mass, or 1 gram per pound of desired body weight. You weigh 400 pounds, you want to weigh 200 pounds, then have 200 grams of protein. It should suffice, it should work out. You shouldn't really lose a lot of muscle mass. However, when you lose a lot of weight, you're most likely going to lose muscle mass. Back to the matter at hand with the bodybuilding diet. Why would somebody choose a bodybuilding style diet? Well, you would choose a bodybuilding style diet because bodybuilders do a great job of holding on to their muscle mass, holding on to their lean tissue. And yes, there's IFBB pro bodybuilders that are on performance enhancing drugs, but there's also a lot of people that don't do that, that aren't on testosterone or performance enhancing drugs, that also do a similar diet and have great success. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Hopefully the elephant in the room isn't you. The elephant in the room is everyone always talks about your hormones being all jacked up when you don't eat fat. That sometimes does happen to bodybuilders. It oftentimes happens to bodybuilders. But bodybuilders are already like 6% body fat, 7% body fat, 8%, and they're dwindling their way down in percentage even further by way of a caloric deficit. I am not advocating for a caloric deficit. In fact, I want you to do an experiment. Try for a couple weeks. Try for, a handful of days, maybe a couple handfuls of days, maybe 15 days or 20 days, or maybe a month. Just eat a lot, eat often. Go from eating 3 times a day to eating 6 times a day. Go from eating 300 grams of carbohydrates to 600 grams of carbohydrates. But keep your fat super low. Have your fat percentage be low. You don't have to calculate. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sit there and write things up, but just look at food labels and learn them. And understand that scallops, shrimp, white fish have next to no fat in them. Those are some of the leanest things that you can eat. 99% lean ground turkey, it only has 1% fat. 93.7 lean ground beef and stuff like that is not lean enough for what I'm talking about. Because per pound, it will have about 32 grams of fat. That's right, 32 grams of fat. An egg goes right out the window. But then people talk about eggs are good because they have choline and all these other things. And that can be true. And I'm not saying that you can't have an egg or two here and there. Why wouldn't you maybe titrate some of that in there? Some of that stuff in there on occasion. Why wouldn't you have some mackerel or some salmon on occasion for the nutrient density that it has, the EPA, the DHA, and then also to help ramp up your ability to utilize fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin E, A, and K, right? Those are all really valuable vitamins. Those are really valuable things to our system. And so it makes some sense to have some of that in there. But you can keep your dietary fat still extremely low and eat some of these things. Like I usually eat pink salmon, wild planet pink salmon, canned. And when it's canned in the United States, it's supposed to be wild. It's not supposed to be farmed. And so when you go to the store and you get salmon and stuff like that, it's usually farmed. And then a farmed salmon is just way different. Anyway, getting a little off topic, but the pink salmon is fairly lean. I want to say there's only like 4 or 6 grams of fat per can, which is perfect. Because again, we're trying to keep the fat super low. If I was to give you a number, I think it's pretty easy. Like try to keep it below like 30. And sometimes when you give people recommendations, they're like, 30, what's the difference between 30 and 50? They take some liberties, but I would say, hey, the hell with it. If you did take some liberties, Not a huge deal, but have a lot of days also that where you're under 30. You know, can we meet in the middle on that? Can you sometimes have 20 and sometimes have 40? I think that sounds reasonable, because you can titrate some of those fats in there if you think that there's an extra benefit. But there's no reason to add oils and butter and all this other stuff to our diet when we are trying to be leaner, when we're trying to be in better shape. Remember, I'm here talking to you guys about the single digit body fat series. And we're talking about getting in shape. And we're talking about being ripped. And we're talking about going to places. We're talking about being elite and not looking like everybody else. And so, look at this, a barbell right here. Amazing. And when we're talking about not looking like everybody else, well, we're going to have to make some moves that maybe not everybody else is doing. And the low-fat diet, has fallen from the sky, basically bred out of the sugar diet. The sugar diet was an amazing experiment. I'm still doing some aspects of it at the moment, because I personally still have some experimenting that I'm toggling with for very specific reasons, because I want to weigh 200 pounds. I'm already very lean, so it's kind of complicated, because I'm in a position where, I don't want to lose any muscle. I really want to hold on to and secure these pipes over here, and I want to make them even better too. So at some point, I'll have to allow my body weight to come back up. The body weight thing for me is not because I have a disorder. It's because I have goals with running, and it's just going to be easier if I'm lighter. Anyway, so the foods that you're going to be eating are a lot of those really lean foods I already mentioned, including egg whites. Egg whites are just a great, unbelievable resource for eating lean. And they could be added to anything because they don't taste like much. Now, what I would also say is when you cook your egg whites, you can cook it in a little bit of tallow, or you can spray the pan. You don't have to get completely unraveled and completely nuts about our nutrition. Also, I want to point out that on occasion, you can bring your fats up a little bit. I don't see anything wrong with you're making great progress, your weight feels good, you look good, your energy's good. But on a weekend or something, you want to go have a steak with your lady, or take her out to dinner, and you want to have something at your favorite restaurant. I see zero problem with that. What I do have a problem with is binging, though. And that's why this diet, I think, is awesome. Because you're hammering fruit, you're hammering vegetables, you're hammering protein, albeit lean sources of protein. You got chicken breast and turkey and some of the other things I mentioned already. And of course, certified Piedmontese beef. I mention it all the time. Use the code Mark Bell, get 20 or 25% off and free shipping. The dopest meat you'll ever get. It's tender, and they have some cuts that have next to zero. Some cuts even have 0 grams of fat. They're leaner than chicken breast. They're leaner than turkey. It's insane. And you're also getting the B vitamins and so forth that accompany red meat. So I just think that's the ultimate home run right there. I love that brand and that product, but I also understand it's not realistic for everybody else to have it. But you don't need that product, and you don't need any other product. Again, I apologize about the wind here. It's kicking up. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it will die down when I make this turn up here in a second. But those are the foods you're going to focus on. And when you focus on those foods and you have your carbohydrate mixes of potatoes and some of the other things I mentioned, it makes it really hard to want to binge, because I'm telling you, crush food. Eat a couple servings of potatoes every day. Eat a couple servings of rice every day. Forget about measuring, this whole thing about a cup of rice and all this stuff. Get rid of all that. Get rid of all those habits. Those are kind of shitty habits. Those are habits that aren't even, you would just grab whatever you wanted, that's what you should be doing. Grab as much as you want. 3 servings of rice is not going to make you fat. 3 servings of potatoes it's not going to make you fat. It will not make you fat. It will not encourage your body to want to hold on to more body fat. The only thing that it could do potentially is it could get to a point where you just don't lose any weight. That can happen. But more than likely, your metabolism, a word I say all the time, but messed up there a bunch of times in a row, your metabolism is going to match it. And it's going to match it with its own match and its own flame. And it's just going to want to burn more of those calories. Now, of course, we could like get fat if we, start downing tons and tons of orange juice and pineapple juice and like refined sugars and all these other things. We know we can do that because we saw that happen for some folks with the sugar diet. And that's why Cole abandoned the name and stuff like that. And that's why the sugar diet sort of went down the toilet. But I don't think that there's any reason to leave the sugar diet on the side of the road like it's some hunk of crap. I actually think that it still is revolutionary. I still think there's great benefit to it. And I think so many great things already came out of it in such a short period of time that I really like some of the protocol. But some people got out of hand with candy and all the other BS. And you want to be a little careful. And I think some of that was Cole's fault with his message. And I'm guilty as well. I'll throw myself in there because I was just thinking through it. And I was like, oh yeah, I made some posts with Sour Patch. But I never said like, hey, I mentioned so many times that it's not the majority of the diet. But maybe I just shouldn't have posted it at all because maybe people can't handle it. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. This diet is amazing. Carbohydrates, for me, I got rice cakes. I'm still having honey. I'm not adding honey to a bunch of stuff. I just will add honey occasionally to some things. And keep in mind, I'm already very lean, so my rules might be a little bit different. I am making some smoothies here and there. When I say here and there, it might be like once or twice a week. I may add sugar to some oatmeal, but in a reasonable way. If you can do that and you can handle it and you can do those things in a way that, look at these flowers. These are awesome. Wow, that's really cool. If you could do some of these things in a reasonable way, then, and you can control yourself and control your cravings and your mind when you're divvying out some of these things, then I don't see anything wrong with kind of keeping them in. But yeah, I'll try to record and show you guys more of the foods that I'm eating so it can be even more specific. But without fat, it's going to be very difficult for you to gain fat. And this diet is a huge advantage because you get to eat a lot. And I know a lot of you are looking to want to eat a lot. I'd also say, some whey protein can be another option in here for this diet. Cereal gets to be a gray area because sometimes people go like overboard with consuming that too. So if there's things that you have hard time controlling, then just go all natural and go, full natty diet and stick to your rice and your potatoes and your fruits and whole foods. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never strength. I want you to give it a try. I want you to honestly eat as much as you can and see if you can get yourself to gain weight eating very, very, very extremely low fat, but pushing those carbs way up through the roof and keeping your protein high. Catch you guys later.